All right, we are live with another physical distancing intimate conversation. I am Danny Terrell. I am the curator of Central District Forum for Arts and Ideas here in Seattle, Washington. We are just trying to wait for our guests to join just to give you a few things about what's happening at CD Forum on July 11th. We are going to have a cute little fundraiser. It's going to be digital. It's going to be the Bougie Brunch Soiree. So we will have more details coming out really soon about that. Get your brunch on with CD Forum. We will definitely have performances. They're not necessarily going to be live, but we will have performances and all that other great stuff. We will have it hosted by Randy Ford. Ha ha ha. So definitely join us and our guest today. Hopefully they'll come in really soon. What else is happening at Central District Forum for Arts and Ideas? Like our YouTube page, CD Forum on YouTube. That is our CD Forum TV. You will find Brian J. Evans and his work Lopsided on our YouTube page. Mujale, what's up?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Good to see you.
Wait, let me adjust okay, there. So I'm not cut off. Like, today, everybody, we have Mujale Chisebuka. Did I say it right?
You said it right. Well, the
Hey.
African way
Say that again?
Chisebuka, but Chisebuka.
Cool. See, I'm getting better at this, calling people by their name. Mujale, where do we even start? Let's start here. 12-year Seattle-based entrepreneur and visual artist with a background in graphic design, videography, photography, animation, and publishing arts. Currently a business owner of One Side Think. Outside Think, Mujale AXP, and co-founder of Black Dot Seattle. First question. Okay, so me and Mujale see each other at least once a week on our Zoom calls with CD Forum, so it's not like, oh, it's a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But what's moving through your body?
What's moving through my body?
Yes.
Excitement, a little bit of anxiety, and a little bit of frustration, but a little bit of also like I'm happy about the things that are happening right now. When I'm out there with the protests, I'm loving the support from all walks of life. I'm seeing that this actually could be a time of change, you know. So
right.
With that, like that excites me. It's also overwhelming to come from like COVID, where I was quarantined and was basically isolated and sticking to myself, and then now getting back into the flow of things and being welcomed by like drones of people, at these marches, and with a lot of like passionate people out there. It's kind of like whoa, so getting used to that again, seeing a lot of people. So.
And you are what are you exactly doing inside the marches, in case people don't know? Like, what's your role, and how are you moving through the protests and the marches?
Yeah, so I've been behind the scenes of some of the stuff in terms of like designing some of the flyers and helping out with even coordinating people picking up stuff at like Black Dot and behind the scenes that way, and then also in front of the scene in terms of like helping with media stuff. So and being in charge, taking photos, and a media team that we've all been out there, like in a couple of the marches. Like yesterday, we were out there for the Juneteenth, and there was about 7 of us that I was navigating, and then there was also coordinating with other teams as well, and now collecting the footage, and then making sure that the footage is first of all archived for historical purposes, and also like some stuff that needs to go on social media, making sure that we categorize and we know where everything's going. So
awesome. And so and I've been talking to several people. I have not been out at any protests because, we're still in a pandemic. So some of us choose not to but it feels like something is different that's happening inside of these protests. What are you feeling that's different from, say, like 6 years ago,
Good question.
4 years ago? Like, what? It just seems like it's moving in a different direction.
Yeah, I feel like what's different is that people actually like they're taking it seriously this time. It's not like
Mm,
there's a lot of people on the sidelines in the past protests where they're like, oh well, yes, we keep hearing about like Black Lives Matter and we get it, but they didn't feel a part of it. But what's changed,
right,
a lot of people now feel like they have to be a part of it and they have to. There's the actual like crisis happening that it's not fake, it's real. So that sense of urgency is what I see now in people's faces and people's actions. Is like where like
right,
notice they now see that something is wrong and they feel like they need to take action and they're taking ownership of what it is, you know. So that's what I see. I also see like a lot of like young kids, you know, and
hmm
I see um, with that too, I see my shift too, like parents, you know, and they're like, as I saw this video the other day of like a whole bunch of little kids, you know, in a little white suburb, and they were protesting, you know, and they were,
right,
and there was like, and that was really important because the way kids play is really important, you know. Just going back to even the way I used to play as a young kid, and some of the things, you know, that I was like, for example, like playing as a young kid and then playing like cops and robbers
mm,
and then like with that, you know, I remember some of the kids used to be like, oh Mujale, you can't be the cop because you're black, you have to be the robber, you know. So then
right,
that was now looking back, I normalized that, but now looking back at these kids the way they're playing and they're protesting, that's the way they're playing and they're living it. And back then the way we played was Jolly can't be the cop, he has to be the robber, you know, he's black, you know.
yeah,
So
right,
that's important for that I love seeing kids playing that way, especially like
yeah,
playing that way. They're protesting, they're chanting Black Lives Matter. That was really important for me to see that.
awesome. And speaking of your childhood, you were born in Zambia
Yes,
and you moved to Washington State at 5 years old.
yes,
So you are an African person living in America,
mm-hmm.
and you have a very different experience in the sense of culturally. And a lot of times we don't talk about that. We don't talk about the difference between those that come from enslaved people that were
Mm-hmm.
born and raised in the United States and those that are from Africa and moving over. What is your take on the relationship with Africans and those African Americans from the enslaved people?
Yeah, and that's like a good question. And from my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that, you know, I was a little bit different in terms of like even the relationship growing up in school, is though kids didn't pick on us the same per se. Uh,
Right.
I noticed that it almost gave me a little bit more of an advantage, to be honest,
Mm,
because when kids used to pick on us and they used to say things like, you know, like I didn't understand, you know, things like, well, I was like, I love watermelon, so I didn't understand when kids were making fun of me for like liking watermelon, you know. I
right, right,
put that together because I'm like, oh, I love watermelon, you know. But then a lot of kids that were born here that were black, they understood it and they took offense to it, and they'll like punch a kid in the face for that, you know. But as opposed,
right.
oh, I like watermelon, you know. So with that, you know, we didn't. It actually helped me out and stay in school longer because. Especially moving here to a place where it was mostly predominantly white and Asian. And so it's like they didn't bring the same way, and it kind of sucked because my peers like were black.
Mm-hmm.
We were very close, but then like for example, when I graduated, like they came to my graduation, but we're in the same grade, we're supposed to be graduating together. Why? That's why I knew there's something wrong with the system. You know, it was like
Ah,
why can't my black friends be graduating with me? You know, and
right.
what's happening here and why they're supporting me, you know, and they're coming here, but for some reason, yeah, they're not graduating.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it was because of those insults, you know, it was hard.
Right.
Being like, yeah, insulted. And like, I still remember like being in high school and reading, I think it was, yeah, Huckleberry Finn, and where
Mm,
we had to like, basically the word nigger was in there. And
right.
but every single time everybody said that word, the person reading out loud said it. Everybody look at me and they're like, "Oh, sorry, Mujale." But it was actually counterproductive because when people are looking at every single time you say the word, then you look at me. It's like, yes, you're trying to protect me, but at the same time, you actually make it worse. So
Right, you're actually saying right.
yeah.
Wow. Do you, from the perspective of you and the work that you do and how you were raised, what is there an energy that's different between the African folks inside of the protest and the American folks that are Black inside of the protest? Or is it just everyone's on one accord and everyone's understanding that Black liberation is liberation for everybody within the United States?
Mm. Yeah, so there is a little bit of definitely unity, but there's a little bit different energy because we understand, at least I understand that my ancestors like were not enslaved,
Right.
So I came here, like we came here as immigrants and on our own accord, and my parents did, and because Zambia, the relationship of Zambia to like the Atlantic slave trade is like we're far inland, we're in inland. Even though we were colonized by the Dutch, so it was a colony. But with that, there was never really any slave. They couldn't make it far enough for the slave trade to happen to us, So
Right.
with that, like it's hard for even for people that I have a lot of African American friends that were born here and their ancestors were enslaved, and now it's kind of like rebuilt because I know my history, I know my family's history and culture.
Right.
Looking at some of my friends, where they don't know that, and they're just starting to now figure it out and like really do their history, and that goes back to like when we used to get made fun of. I'll be like, oh, well, people used to make fun of me, but I was like, oh, you're wrong. I know where I come from. I know what I am, as opposed to some of my friends that were African American that were born here and they had a history of their ancestors were enslaved. They didn't know where they came from, so they couldn't answer those questions. So like that reaction of that person could be right is a thing that I feel like triggered them to like even take something like in bullying where they had to fight back because if you don't know it and somebody's making fun of you and you don't know where you actually the real answer, then you start to believe what they're saying, then it just makes you more upset,
Right. You said in reading your bio and information that you started getting involved with arts because you saw your father drawing.
Yes.
What was the thing about the drawing that really got you like focused in on that part of your artistic practice?
Yeah, so like my dad is definitely an artist at heart. He's a gardener, and I remember he used to do sketches of things that so with that, I took that because he used to do landscapes. So I remember him doing landscapes, and then I like was really curious. I don't know like what got my curiosity going, but I just remember just watching for hours, and then him like looking at me and like, oh, like my son keeps watching me do this. He's like, do you want to try this? So then
Right.
I want to try this, and then it got to a point, where like at first I used to just take his drawings and just copy them, and then after a while I'm like, wait a minute, I can go outside and draw these myself,
Right.
Then I remember it got to a point where I told my dad that like, oh, Dad, you're drawing them wrong, because he used to draw birds the exact same way every single time. So then so I got to a point when I'm like, Dad, no, birds actually look like this, and I started sketching him, and then he's like, after that he gave up, and he's like, son, you're better than me, and you're 4, so he gave up drawing. So that was kind of that was funny, but I'm like, obviously I didn't mean for him to give up, I was like,
Right.
yeah. But I really I love his drawings at first. So that progression of going from copying his drawings to actually going out seeing the world for myself, and then that also helped me to also remember things more as well. So a lot of the memories I have as a really young kid, my parents were like, "How do you remember that?" But I'm like, I drew it all the time, so I did
Right.
drew it and just focus on it. And so that's why I can remember a lot of things from when I was very young.
Awesome. So, I'm going to ask a series of questions and then kind of tie it back into like the protest. You are a videographer, you are a photographer, you are a business owner. what from the drawing and illustration, how did that move into photography and videography?
Good question. So with that, so I remember after high school, as I was trying to figure out what I want to do the rest of my life, and
Mm-hmm.
on that, I was like, I want to pursue my art career full time, and I want to become a world famous painter. Where I got like the roadblock was I couldn't find any photographers or videographers to take pictures of my work, and so with
Okay.
I was like, I'm just gonna go back to school. I'm gonna learn how to do it myself. So when I went back to school and I learned how, I started taking those courses to build on that. A lot of my friends that were also pursuing either artist careers or musical careers, I
Right.
saw a need, because they were like, oh, like one of my friends is a really talented musician, but his CD covers were like stick figures, So like I'm
Mm-hmm.
like if you try to put yourself out there and be taken seriously, you can't have stick figures for your album art.
Exactly.
So with that, I was like, I saw a need in that, So I started with my friends and helping them with their CD covers as well as myself, And then from that, it's progressed to like now helping out small businesses and other artists.
Right. Right. And so it's and my feeling on documenting Black folks. We just need to do it anytime that we get. How does your view as someone who was born in Africa, moving to the United States, inside of art and inside of protest, how important is it for us to continue those practices from Africa to the United States to Cuba to Jamaica and documentation?
Yes, very, very important. And as a person that like growing up, like I didn't really start documenting, didn't understand the importance of documenting till
Mm-hmm.
actually like started doing photos and video around around the time when I was I'll say 21 or so.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started seeing, because I'm like, I'll be in places, I'm like, why isn't anybody, this is a historical moment and it's not being documented, and we're not going to get this moment back. So I started being in places, I'm seeing this over and over again, because there's a lot of stuff that I've been a part of that hasn't been documented and now it's gone.
Right.
So with that, I saw a real need for that. So with that, like I also started like so a lot of stuff, even if it doesn't get published, I still document just the importance of actually being there and recording it and make sure that like if we need to come back and use it later, we can. If we are trying
Understand.
to do that, or we push it out. So that's a very important like thing to have and service to have. And as I've been preaching to like even the team that I have now is like we gotta document.
Mm-hmm.
Some people they get nervous and they're like,
Right.
but they're like, we want to make it perfect. We want to have everything out there before we even publish it, before we even record it. It's got to be perfect. But at the same time, now it's like don't miss that moment. Just record it. We'll worry about perfection later.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that's so true. It's like we try to get to this point where it looks a certain way.
mhm.
And for me, a lot of times that is built in white supremacy. It's like if it's not perfect, whatever perfect is, then we can't do it. We can't put it out there. And we're missing the idea of the story inside of like the story is the important thing. All the stuff around it
Mhm.
will come or it may not come. But if we don't get the stories go away.
Ex-
A lot of our ancestors, a lot of our, elders are no longer here. And so we can never get those stories back because we were waiting for the right time. Thank you for saying that.
yeah.
You are someone who documents stories and you have your hands in a lot. Can you talk to us about what Black Dot is and what Black Dot has been doing in the CD for the past few years?
Yeah. So we started Black Dot at the end of 2015,
Mm-hmm.
and it was four of us: Joaquin Garrett,
Mm-hmm.
Monica Washington, and Aramis Hammer, and we came together and with the mission of we all came from different walks. Joaquin was kind of like this activist, community leader, and
Right.
Aramis was a painter like myself, visual, and then Monica was more of a spoken word artist. But we came together because again, we saw a need. Where like if you went to a WeWork or any kind of co-working spot, there wasn't a lot of people, a lot of Black people in those spaces. And then we were
No.
interviewing people like in our neighborhoods and asking them, why don't you go there? And a lot of people were like, I'm scared to go there, because I'm gonna be judged.
Right.
Like I don't know the language, I don't know like the culture. So, but then we were like, that's important for you to be in those spaces because that's where a lot of the money's flowing and network is happening. So then we're like, why don't we create a place where you can come in and you can build and be comfortable and learn the language and put yourself in the startup world. And then if you don't have to stay here, you can go, if you want to feel comfortable, you can actually go to those places. That you can join a WeWork after if you feel comfortable enough to do that. But we want
Right.
a hub where people feel comfortable and they can learn the language and then move forward and be a part of the growing. Because like Seattle's booming, in terms of tech startups and tech, but our community was missing out because of fears. So we wanted to, shorten the gap.
Right. And are you all still working as Black Dot in the city?
Yeah, so Black Dot right now is on 16th and Jackson. But
Okay.
years ago, the mayor did announce that they'll be transferring the Fire Station 6 to Black Dot Africatown. And that will
Awesome.
moving those. As soon as that happens, it hasn't happened yet. They set it in name, but they haven't actually transferred the paperwork or we haven't got the keys. So,
Okay.
process. As soon as that happens, then Black Dot will be in Fire Station 6.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And will you be moving outside thinking there also, or will those be separate entities?
Yeah, so that I like that you said that. Yeah, so the way it works with outside thing too is like so I do work in a live and work loft. So I do
Hmm.
a lot of my stuff out of this, and part of like I have my meetings at Black Dot. Outside of COVID, before COVID happened, I
Right.
was at Black Dot. So long story short, yes, that will be in there. But
Hmm.
for example, like even with some of the editing stuff, we work with like Northwest Film Forum. Like for some of the team members that don't have access to equipment, they'll go. They can edit a film at the film forum. So we are moving
Right.
that way until like so Black Dot is a part of it as well. So
Awesome. And can you give us the history of outside thinking, where you started that from, and why did you work that into existence?
yes, I can. So with Outside Think, it started around the same time as as I was also like venturing out. Like a lot of my friends were needing work
Hmm.
done, like CD covers and photo shoots. So I was like, all right, well, how like what? How do I get that? I got sort of business, with it, because like this can't be Mujale running around. The name of it can't just be Mujale. I mean, it could be, but I felt like Outside Think was the reason why I thought of Outside Think was because thinking outside the box. So
Hmm.
all the creatives I work with are it's a creative agency, So with that, like a lot of that comes with thinking outside the box. How do we create things? How do we when we have nothing? How do we create our way out of things? Or how do we?
Right.
So I thought that's why I chose the name Outside Think. I changed the K at the end to a C because I thought that C for creativity
Hmm.
would be the best way to do that. So, and a lot of my friends too, so they really took to that. They loved it, like thinking outside the box. I'm a creative, so definitely
Right.
with the focus of attracting creatives to the business and also empowering creatives as well as getting them out there.
Hmm.
Later on, it started as a for artists, like by artist type thing, but then later on moving on to like startups as well and small business owners, and then
Hmm.
empowering the creatives is like, all right, you can actually like come and learn and build and grow with the business, or you can just use the services.
Right. Two-part question. What is the joys in this work, and what are the hurdles in this work that you do?
Yeah. So the joys of this work is honestly like I'm one of those people that like I don't get a lot of happiness. Like for example, like if I'm on stage of like everybody's giving me all
Right.
attention. I don't get a lot of joy in that. I get more joy in like in teamwork and helping somebody grow and like watching them achieve certain things. So when I'm designing something or helping somebody like build a business, like I get a lot of joy in watching the excitement as I'm as they're growing, because with that, I also get to like relive certain things, like go through certain processes and help them walk through that. So that's a big joy of mine, is like watching them people achieve their
Mm-hmm.
and being able to help with that. Some of the hurdles is, for example, like some of the artists, when I start, like it's hard to be sustainable when like you get people on payment plans for $50. I'm like,
Right.
if I'm breaking it down where you're on a 10, like you have 10 payment plans for like $50, then I'm not making any money.
Right. Right.
So, so with that, it's like, how do we, okay, now that we're finding joys in what we love doing and helping people grow, it's like, how do we also be sustainable and help them achieve their goals and then able to afford certain things. So the way I've been able to like navigate it now is like, that's why I did expand it to like small businesses and startups, because they tend to have a little more discipline and a little more capital with that. And now
Mhm.
I'm dealing with people that have more capital and more funds. I can now average it out and help the other people that don't have as much funds and
Mhm.
take the average of that.
Awesome. Um, Taking it back to like the protest for a minute, what what is it for you to be involved in such a pivotal moment in the history of Seattle? And we're talking about CHOP. We're talking about people really in the street protesting and moving this city forward as far as like police reform. There are things of defund the police and abolish the police, and you're there in a very different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What 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 is the lens telling you? What are you seeing through the lens?
Mm. Yeah, so I've been out there in a couple of different capacities. One was just a strictly like I went out there by myself, my own accord,
Mhm.
being a citizen journalist, with my phone and my camera.
Mhm.
And then a couple of the other times have been me hired to work for certain people. What the lens has been telling me is, I started at first. I was very fearful because I went there when it was still like the police was still there. It was
Mhm.
very violent scene, with the tear gassing and what are those, the rubber bullets and all that. So being in that moment became very fearful, But then also like I don't know how it works, because I feel like sometimes when I'm looking through my camera, then life is almost like not real. Like I'm not actually there. Like
Right.
like almost like it's a protector. And
Mm.
I feel sometimes uncomfortable without my camera, because then like if I feel uncomfortable, I can just look through my lens, and then suddenly for some reason things are okay. Like I can be braver. For some reason, like if somebody's shooting rubber bullets, if I'm looking through my camera, I don't think about the rubber bullets. I just think about capturing the shot.
Right.
So with that being said, like it has been a little like it was a little traumatic, like even like for example, like walking to some of the protests and then getting texts being like, "Oh, the Proud Boys are coming," and they're a couple blocks away from you right now. You got to go home, and we're worried about you. Things like this.
Right.
So that has been a little traumatic that way, because I'm not used to that amount of passion and intense feelings and even violence. Because when I like that was in like a street that I frequently walk down all the time, and
Right.
really felt fear on that when I started hearing those. So.
Oh, you froze. There you are. You froze for a second.
Okay. Yeah. So like when I'm walking down the street, I'm usually accustomed to walking down without feeling any sense of fears, and I felt that moment, a sense of fear in that moment. That was a weird feeling for me. But yeah, so I don't. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you did. You did. You said that creativity and being creative is one of your superpowers, or is your superpower. And earlier in the conversation, you said that people were excited to see you and out on the street and taking that. What are the superpowers that you are seeing, especially from Black people on the street?
Yeah, so some of them like so it's been really great to just see like people coming out, and I feel like in these times or hard times, people really get to like character, true character show, and people get to step up.
Mhm.
And I have friends that, for example, he's just, like he does security. Um, he's a very intense person, and when that shooting happened, we hired him to do security for us, and then but he was like out there with no fear, and I think that's the same thing with again looking through the same kind of confidence I get when looking through my lens, or
Right.
is the same kind of confidence he gets from like he's like, I'm security now, my sense of purpose is to protect people, and seeing
Mm.
go into those roles has like been very powerful. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and when I say like my ability to create my superpower, meaning like if with my pen and paper, I can draw myself on the moon. I can travel to these places. I can
Right.
fly. I can do all this. And then I feel like a lot of these people, like when they are in their zone as well, in their creative zone, they feel that sense of like power. And even that's when like I can't go the way he does because I'm like me personally. I'm never like I've shot a gun, but I'm not a good. I don't do good with weapons.
Yes.
That's not my thing. So with that, like, but when we need people that can protect us and come out with us,
Right.
and play their roles, some people can do that. So yeah, that's where I've seen like the sense of people's powers come out in terms of like when they see that sense of urgency and they see that they are needed and
Right.
moment, then they step up to the plate and they become powerful that way.
Awesome. And you work with a bunch of folks, your team,
Hmm.
they have their superpowers, and you all create the super team. And COVID hit, COVID happened, it shut down a lot of your work.
Hmm.
How did that affect your team of folks? Like what was going on with you all as outside think and you being the head of that? How do you keep them encouraged during this time?
Yeah. So at first, to be honest, it was very scary at first. Like
Mhm.
I saw one job end, and then the next day, 98% of the jobs were done. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, like how are we even gonna create funds or make money? And then, but actually, it has after a while, like after a couple of weeks of like even adjusting. So what we did was we adjusted to an online platform where we started doing more digital services.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, some of the team members weren't as skilled online as others, and with that caused it so they couldn't do any of the work. Uh,
Right.
that was very tough, but we still keeping in touch, and still have
Mhm.
seconds. But it's tough, when like all right, like I can't contract somebody out, that I want to, because they don't have the skill sets to be
Right.
transfer online. So that's also caused me to be like, how do we now start creating a system where like people get those skill sets? So when a pandemic like this hits again, they're diverse.
Exactly.
Yeah. But with that too, like the adjustment period has actually brought us together as a team because now that like a lot of these people they did have their 9 to 5 jobs, but without that shutting down, they actually had time to check in. So actually we started doing like daily check-ins and building that way. So that actually brought us together closer as a team. Um,
Mhm.
COVID, and we had more time to check in with each other.
Awesome. You are a Black-led organization, arts organization. How can people donate and give you money to help support you and your team during this time? Because yes, things are opening up, and yes, things are happening, but people are still out of work, especially creative folks. And a lot of times, people will forget we're going to be the last to come in.
Right.
Even though it may not seem like that, but we're going to be the last because a lot of things we do are on the inside in venues. So how can people donate and give you money and support you and possibly hire some of your folks and hire you all to do some work?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I can send you the Cash App. I can send you the Venmo. I can send you the website link. So that does help for donations to like because with some of this too, like to be able to even help some of the team members out that can't work as much, like we do need like some kind of support that way as well. Also, too, we have a list of clients that we want to serve. but they necessarily can't afford some of the rates. So if you could donate to help them get the services, that would help as well. If they want to, or if they see a business that needs some of the services, like just connecting us. Outside think machine there. Cool. Outside think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I put
And then even
the website. Did I miss something?
No.
I hope I didn't miss anything then.
I'm gonna put this in there as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, people. We at Central District Farm Arts and Ideas, we work with Mujale a lot. We work with his crew a lot, and we see how this is affecting him and his crew in the work. And again, things are pumping up and going, but still, as artists, in all capacities, it's going to be hard for people to get back to work. So please support Mujale. They do really great work. They're really great people to work with. If you know me, you know I am super critical about stuff. Mujale has felt some of my power in criticism. Mujale has felt it, but I trust Mujale. I trust his crew in the work. And so, we're coming close to time. You're always around when I ask this question, what is your joy? You know that is my favorite question. What is your joy in this moment in time?
Honestly, like right now, my joy is being alive and being actually being able to experience. Because even yesterday, like I had to at the march, I had to excuse myself and just had a moment to like even just cry. I realized the history we were making. So I understand that a lot of pain and people have come out of this. That like a lot of pain has been built on this, but also at the same time, we are moving forward. Even the story of like D. Charlene, and her history and her struggles here in Seattle. She's no longer with us now, but like her history and how she even like the things she had to like deal with back in the day, that hurt. But also seeing like where the moment we were at, everybody coming out and supporting in drones. So I love seeing that. And again, like even with that, I was talking about the march I saw earlier with a bunch of little kids like in their neighborhood and the way they were playing. It's the march.
Right.
And there was a bunch of little white kids, yelling Black Lives Matter away from a place where like no Black folks were even there. So I love seeing that.
Awesome. Mujale, thank you. I know you're super busy and you have a lot going on now. Thank you for taking this time with me. You and I normally talk through the business stuff, so it was great to like get to talk to you in this way, in this manner, and finding out some new things about you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Where can folks check out your work at? On the website, of course, outsidethink.com.
And all the handles are the same. So for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, please follow. And check it out and see some of the stuff we're doing. And hopefully you guys stay in touch.
Yes. Hire Black businesses, people. All right. You have a great weekend, and I will see you Monday.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Mujale.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye.